Alright, so in this video I'm going to demonstrate how to set up a AutoCAD template complete with a border and title block, a simple one of course, and also are going to export and use a profile so that all of your settings will remain the same. Even if you have to go from one computer to the next, you can take the template with you. So let's get started. First of all, we're going to come up here to the layer properties, and we are going to start adding some layers that we're going to use later. So first one we're going to use is construction. And we want that to be this gray. That is going to be continuous, and we're going to use a default line weight. Oops, didn't mean to close that, because we have more to add. There we go. So we have object. And I'm not going to bother with calling object lines. I'm going to assume that they are all lines. Here we are going to keep it as the default white. It's going to be continuous, and our line weight is going to be 0.6 millimeters. This, of course, is only going to be affected if we print the drawing. It won't take effect on the screen unless we turn that option on. Hidden lines. Hidden lines, we're going to change that, make it cyan. Oops. We want the line weight to be 0.3. And let's see, we want to go ahead and add center lines. We'll make those red. Those will stand out for us that way. And make those 0.3. Nope, we want those to be default size, so they're not quite as thick. We need a dimension layer. Let's make those green. And we want those, oh, I'm sorry, we want dimensions to be magenta. That way we can be consistent. And continuous and default for that. I did forget to change the line type on hidden. We want to load. Scroll down here to hidden. Click OK. Then we want to choose hidden. And click OK. When we go to the center, we want to load, and right there is center. So we click OK, change to center, and click OK. There we go. So next we need section lines. We want those to be white, or the default number 7. What that'll end up being is white or black, depending on what our screen is. So click OK. And we want those to be continuous and default. So the next layer is going to be the cutting plane. And we want that to be this darker gray. Whoops. And we want that line type. We need to load it. It's called Phantom. We need to choose Phantom. There we go. And we want the line weight on that to be 0.6. Whoops. Next we want title block. We want that to be green. We want that to be continuous. And we want the line weight for the title block to be 1.2. Next, let's choose our title block lettering. We're going to keep that green continuous, but we're going to change the line weight back to default. Click OK. And one last layer is the viewport. And let's make that one this white black, continuous, and default. Okay, so that's all of our layers. So now whenever we draw something, we can come up here and put it on the layer. So next, we actually want to create the title block and border. But before we get there, let's go up here to the tools. If you don't have this, this menu bar showing, you can get to it by clicking here. And instead of hide menu bar, show menu bar will show up here instead. But since mine is showing, we go to Tools, Options, and then here's the options for setting up a profile. We're going to leave all our file paths the same. Display, you can kind of come in here and change some of these settings if you choose. The one that I'm interested in is this crosshair size. I want it to be 100% of my screen. So I'm going to click Apply real quick. Then I'm going to continue. Here in the Open and Save, we can set up the automatic save to be as often as we want. Now, most of the time, 10 minutes in between saves is probably fine. If you happen to have a touchy computer, or maybe for some reason you're prone to AutoCAD crashing or something to that effect, you may want to reduce this to something smaller, like say every 1 minute. But I'm going to leave mine at 10, but just remember that with that checked, it will automatically save every this many minutes, so in my case 10 minutes. Plot and publish. These are options that of course pertain only to printing and otherwise creating drawings other than just on your screen. Nothing really to change here in the system unless you want to optimize or in some other way affect how AutoCAD runs on your computer. User preferences is another one that I want to touch on. The shortcut menus in the drawing area, we want that checked, and what I want to do, because I really like to use the right click, I want to customize what my right click does. So I want to come in here and use the default mode, and so I want to repeat last command if no objects are selected, In edit mode, if objects are selected, the right click, I want to repeat last command. And the last one, in command mode, if a command is in progress, the right click, I want to be enter. This will, having those three set like that, will really increase the speed at which I can execute commands. So I'm applying close. Now by doing that, I'm going to go ahead, apply, and OK, and right click, and it brings this back up just to demonstrate that my right click is working and it's executing the last command. Here we can change the auto snap marker size, so the little icons that show up when your objects snap, it'll change the size of what those are if you choose, which is kind of handy if you have a large screen and maybe it's set kind of small, be easier to see. We're not going to get into the 3D modeling. The selection, the pick box is the default little box for when you're picking objects. If you want to make that bigger, then you can increase that size. I like the default size, so I'm going to leave it. The grip size is, if you have objects selected, these little grips will be visible. You can make those larger or smaller depending on your choice. I like the default, so I'm going to leave mine. Profiles. This is where I wanted to get to. So I'm going to click apply real quick just to make sure that everything is set. And then I want to export my profile. And I've made a shortcut here to where I want to save it. I'm going to save it as my last name, first name. This ARG is just the file type of the profile. So then I'm going to click Save. Yes, I want to replace it. And now, when you go to another computer and you want to use your profile, you just simply click Import, browse to your location where you saved it, which would be on a flash drive more than likely if you are getting on a different computer. You just select your profile and click Open. You can call it anything you want here, but I'm just going to leave mine the same. Apply and close. And now my profile is here, and I'm going to set current. And that's all there is, really, to having your profile set up. What that does for you is things like my Object Snap toolbar will stay here now. These quick menus that I jump to quite often will stay right there. Plus, my mouse settings, like the crosshair size as you see on the screen, takes up the entire screen. All of that stuff that we set in the properties will stay effective and we can use it, like my right click. So now that we have that set, let's go ahead and go to the layout, the first layout tab. And I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the default view window or viewport. I'm then going to take the rectangle and I'm going to start my rectangle. Oops, before I get that far, let me go in here and just right click and go Page Setup Manager. I want to make sure and set this to the right paper size and get all my stuff set before I draw anything on it. So I'm going to go Modify. I want to go ahead and leave this as letter size, but I don't like this orientation. So I want to choose the A size, but 11 by 8.5. That'll turn my drawing so that it's in portrait view. Leave my drawing orientation in landscape, or I'm sorry, not portrait, landscape view. I want my layout to be what I plot. I want the offset to be nothing because I want it to be in the center. And I want my scale to be 1:1. This is what you want it to always be when you're printing a layout view, because this is the size of paper that you're going to be printing on. So then everything looks fine. If you have a printer that you want to set up, you can do that at this time, but it's really not necessary because you can choose this when you go to print the drawing when you're ready to print it. Oh, I do want to set this to AutoCAD, however. AutoCAD basically just means that it's going to print the colors that we chose. If you need to print a black and white, you can choose this grayscale, or better yet, monochrome. Monochrome is really nice for anytime you have a colored drawing but you need to print it in black and white. So with AutoCAD set, we can go ahead and click OK. I'm going to then click Close. OK. So now that we have our tabs set up and our layout is all ready to go, now I'm going to come up here, choose the rectangle tool. I want to choose to start my rectangle at 0, 0. And I want to tell it to go relative to that point 10.5 inches in the X direction and 7 inches in the Y direction. And that will make my border the same size as the dashed printable area. Now I want to choose my border and explode it. This will allow me to offset just this line 1/2 inch. And then if I choose that again, that gives me my 2 title block lines to place all of my information in. Now I'm going to offset again 3.75 from this edge over, and I want to do that again, but this time I want to go 2.35 inches. Now to give me this bottom rectangle here. So I'll offset again. I'll go 3.2 from our first line over. I also want to go 2.3 from this line. That gives me this block. And if I go 2.3 from that block, whoops, I didn't need that one because I already had a line there. So I'll delete that. Now I'm going to offset 1.2 from this line. That gives me these 2 boxes. And that leaves me with 2.1 for these last 2 boxes. So now I've got all these lines. I need to trim them. So I'm going to use those 2 lines to trim with. And I want to trim that. I want to trim that part. I want to trim that and that. And that leaves me with the boxes that I need. Now I can select all of that and put that on my title block layer. Now I've got my title block. The next thing I need to do is I need to put in my text, and to do that I'm going to use the multi-line text. I'm going to choose that corner, go to this corner. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to choose my justification to be the middle center, and that will keep my text centered both horizontally and vertically. So here I'm going to put the name of the university. And you can choose to put whatever company you want here or whatever university you are attending. So I'm going to then go on and finish placing my other text. Here I'm going to start with a space. I'm going to change my justification to be from middle center to middle left. Oops, there it is. That will keep it centered vertically, but horizontally it'll keep it over to the left-hand side. DR by, or drawn by, is what that is short for. Here is where I'm going to put my name. If your full name won't fit, a lot of times what people will do is they will either do first initial, last name, or if that's too long, sometimes they'll just use initials. My name just happens to be short enough I can get by with putting it there. It just barely fits. I'm going to go ahead and edit that and just go with my three initials. Next, we have checked by. In this box, I want to do the same justification. So I'm going to start with a space, CH, oops, I'm sorry, CK by, and here is where whoever is checking the drawing will put their initials or name. And so I'm going to leave mine blank for right now. If you are one of my students, you can put my initials here if you choose. If you are watching this video and you're attending another university, you can put in your instructor's initials here. Or if you're working for a company, then you can put whoever your supervisor's initials here as well. So I'm going to start the text command again. This box we have the same justification. Start with a little space. This is for the approved by. If you are working for a company, more than likely would be the only case that I know of that you might use this, and that would be then filled in by whoever's initials is going to approve this drawing. Next, I'm going to go right here, choose middle left, and this is going to be, oops, sheet. And I'm going to shorten that just because I don't think my box is quite big enough, or quite big enough, or my text is not quite small enough. One or the other. And so this is going to be sheet 1. If you have multiple sheets, you can put of and however many sheets. My text is not small enough to allow that to fit, however. So if we want to change that, we can come up here and change the size of our text. We want to have it selected when we do that, though. And then that makes our text then small enough that we can go 1 of 4 and there. I can even put the full name sheet. I'm going to change mine to 1 of 1. Next, I'm going to use a little trick. I'm going to take that. Since my box right below it is the same size, I'm going to use copy. I'm going to choose there and there, and that will place an exact copy in the box below. And the only reason I really wanted to do that was so that it kept all of my same settings. And I forgot to put my leading space there. So this box is for the scale. And this one we're going to need to fill in after we draw the object, because whatever we zoom the scale factor of so it all fits, that's what we need to put here. So if we zoom to say we wanted this to be a 1 to 4 scale, we would zoom 0.25 XP, which would be 0.25 of paper space. And so this would be 1 to 4. But we don't know what this needs to be yet because we don't know what we're drawing yet. So I'm going to leave it blank for now. And next, we are going to place the text here. Set my justification for middle left again. And I'm going to lead off with a space. And this is the date. Oops. And just for the sake of the video, I'm going to put in today's date, and you can either use the slashes or the dash. Either way is acceptable typically. It depends on the company or your class as to which one they want. For my class, either one is acceptable. I like the slashes better than the dashes, so I'm going to use that. And the last one that we're going to do for now is going to be the drawing number. And we're going to leave that blank because we don't know what drawing number it's going to be. This middle spot right here is going to be used for the title of this drawing. So whatever we draw and whatever it's called, that will go right here in the middle. So now that we have our title block text finished and ready to go, we're going to select all of that text and we're going to put that on the title block lettering layer. The last thing we need is we need a viewport. So viewports, enter. Here we get some options, and the most common for this size of drawing is going to be single. So I'll show that first. Click OK. Come down here, and there's our window into the drawing. I'm going to select my viewport real quick and put it on the viewport layer. And now this drawing is ready to go. Now, to show an example of what the other viewports do for you, I'm going to start Viewports. So we have two vertical, so we can have two views like this, two horizontal, three, like so. It shows you the preview of each one. Not very common to use those. This one I've seen used a few times. I'll go ahead and place it. We choose the same area because that's our drawing area, but now what it does is it splits the area into four different views. This can be used easily if you have a view you want to show for your top view up here, a view you want to show for your front view and your right side view. The problem that you're going to run into if you do this is keeping your top view aligned with the front view and keeping the front view aligned with the right side view. Sometimes that can be a little tricky between viewports. So that's why you don't typically see this very often with them set up like this. My preference is to just do a single viewport and then scale it accordingly so that your drawing fits all within this space. This way there's no problem with keeping your views aligned so they look proper and everything is still on the drawing. Okay, so the last thing we need to do to make this template usable is we have to save it as a template. So first of all, we go up here to Save As. We change this to the template type, file type. By default, it likes to go to the template folder. So we want to browse back to the folder that we want to save it in. And then I want to save it as this AutoCAD inch template. I then click Save. Yes, I want to replace it. I want to save it as an English, not a metric. At least at this time, that's the way I want to save it. And then I click OK. Now that doesn't do anything but save it as a template at this time. So now, to use that template, we're going to close. And then we want to go to the folder location on your computer, whether it be a USB drive or in my case, it's on my OneDrive. I go to that template file that we just created and I double click to open it right from here. It opens up a drawing. It's going to save it as a DWG, so now it's functioning as a template. If I go to the Start and start a new drawing, it uses my same template that I just created to start a new drawing also. This only works if you double click and open it from the folder. If you double click and open it from here once, it will then function from here like a regular template. And so that concludes this demonstration of how to create and use a drawing template with AutoCAD.